Okay, let us see. Is this working here, or there we go. There we go. There we go. Hello, everyone. There we go. Slightly early there, actually, because I was worried there would be a problem. Slightly early there, actually. I was worried there would be a problem. Slightly early there, actually. Thank you. I was going to say thank you for all the congratulations, everyone. Thank you. It's very kind of you. Say thank you. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you all. Thank you to everyone for subscribing as well. Thank you all. Thank you to everyone for subscribing as well. A nice milestone to reach, I have to say. Thank you all very much. I was a nice milestone to reach. I have to say thank you all very much. I was a nice milestone to reach. I have to say thank you all very much. I was a nice milestone to reach. I have to say thank you all very much. I was a nice milestone to reach. I have to say thank you all very much. I was a nice milestone to reach. I have to say thank you all very much. I was a nice milestone to reach. I have to say thank you all very much. I was a nice milestone to reach. Hear that now. How's that? Is that better? I've just realized it was broadcasting desktop audio, which means it was taking, it was taking the sound, even though I had my speakers muted, it was taking sound from desktop through as well, and just that's, you say that like it's a bad thing, Tom. God, I'm getting really warm here. I've got the wood burner to my back. Yeah, no, sorry about that. That's just me getting used to new streaming software, well, I say I have internalized boominess. Yeah, exactly. But no, what I was saying was thank you to everyone for subscribing. And I was going to say I should have asked ahead of time whether people were okay being thanked for supporting on Patreon and stuff. More specifically, I should have thought and asked people if they were okay being mentioned, because I need to do that at some point, is thank everyone who supports me over there as well, and obviously through PayPal as well. But I will say a generic thank you as I do in videos, because I didn't think to do that before the stream. Yeah, that's very much appreciated as well, obviously. To celebrate this evening, I do have a bottle of Taylor's 2015 late bottle vintage port. Feel free to drink along if you are old enough to do so and you have something that you would like to drink. I'll have a small snifter of this. I think it's appropriate to celebrate. Cheers, everyone. Oh, that is nice. That is good. So yes, indeed, bottoms up, exactly that. Taylor's is good. Taylor's is really, really good. But yes, as I say, it's World War One reenactment tips. Now there's a good idea. I certainly need to. I think one of the ones that people have asked most about is packing the pack. So getting the greatcoat, as you say there, Michael, getting the greatcoat into the pack, which is obviously something that comes up for Second War as well, and of course post-war, because the pack continued in service and the greatcoat continued to service for some time after the Second World War as well as a field garment. So I could do with doing sort of a Great War, probably an interwar. Well, interwar would still be the single-breasted greatcoat. A Great War, a Second War, and then maybe a post-war packing of the pack with the basic contents. Although obviously changing stations and so on, it could be used to carry more than it was initially intended to. So you do see them quite heavily loaded. I think that might be an interesting video as well. Just what can you fit in the pack? Yes, it's certainly something I need to look at, and I do intend to at some point. Oh God, no! Recovering from COVID. I hope it's nothing. I hope the symptoms aren't too serious. I hope it's one of the ones that's been going around that's not been too bad. Thanks, Jake. Thanks. Yeah, this is over the wood burner. So I don't know if you can. Is this a bad idea? I'm going to have to just I've got lag on the stream, so I'm going to have to just wait a moment to see if it's actually showing you the fire behind me. It's not. You might be able to see there now. A couple would burn on behind me here. There we go. Yeah, I've seen that. I have shown you I have fire. That's important. Um, so I've got the wood burner on behind me, so I'm nice and toasty, which is good. Um, and yeah. Oh, hi to New Zealand from the UK as well. Very toasty. Yes, I am. Obviously, the polo shirt is more than adequate. That's good. Um, it is a nice setup in here. This is our dining room, so I'm using the dining room table. The musket is a horrible Denix replica that I modified to look a bit like a sea service musket. So I removed the brass end cap up here and removed the barrel band that they for some reason put on the Denix Brown Bess. I think they couldn't make a piece of wood long enough for the stock. Maybe I don't know. They are horrible. Their Enfields are much nicer, so I might get one of those. I plan to get a nicer replica or an original musket to go on there at some point, possibly even an English Civil War period one, a doglock, an early firelock musket, possibly, but we will see. But yeah, I do hope anyone who is suffering from COVID is not suffering too badly and recovers quickly. Obviously, um, yeah, yeah, it's certainly causing issues again. Hopefully, the season this year won't be too badly affected by it. We shall see. Oh dear, 30 viewers. That's fantastic. Thank you all for dropping by. It's I don't have anything particularly on the agenda this evening, but obviously, as usual, questions and things are. Yeah, I was considering that putting a deact up, but I really like the look of old, uh, of pre, I guess, black powder weaponry in general, but particularly flintlocks. I like the look of flintlocks. I'm not as big a fan of percussion lock weapons, just from aesthetics point of view. So I might get as I say, a replica English Civil War era musket. There's a company in Canada that makes them, which are very, very good. They have the nice, almost paddle shaped stock on them as well. They're quite aesthetic from that point of view. Projects, Tom. I am currently. I've got a bit more Northern Ireland stuff coming together. Recently bought a 3/4 collar um, body, 3/4 flak jacket body armor, whatever you want to call it. Body armor is the official term, but a 3/4 collar, what everyone refers to as M69, which is actually a much more specific thing. It's 3/4 collar, the early type, which has metal zip, press studs rather than Velcro and everything for British Northern Ireland use. That's on the way. Video coming out tomorrow. Spoilers, but the video coming out tomorrow is looking at some of the Argentine kit I have. I'm currently hoping to expand that collection a little bit, partly because of the upcoming anniversary, and I had hoped to have a comparison video, or be out in a position to make a comparison video of British and Argentine kit. And yeah, it's not going to happen, I don't think, in time. But yeah, it's one of those things. Not everything comes together as you wish it could. I mean, I had an idea to do Canadian a Canadian recreation for the battle anniversary of the Battle of Cap Yong um, in 2020, and that didn't come off. So I still need to do that. So yeah, sorry, 2021 rather. Sorry. World War Bricks. My wife Lucy's very kindly filtering out questions from the comment section for me to look at. So I will. I will try and get through them all. Um, the first period, World War Bricks asked what the first period was that I started reenacting. I'm assuming what was the first set of kits I started to put together in the period of that, and that was Second War. I started off as a lot of people do, going, "I'm going to reenact Commando," and in exactly that voice, in fact. And I started getting stuff together like a skeleton assault jerkin and things like that, which is again nothing realistic really in what I did. I was a kid at the time and did as a lot of kids do. And then the kit expanded, the Second War kit expanded, and then mushroomed into what it is now. Benjamin asking about the Denix Lee Enfields. They're okay at a distance. They're a cheap alternative. They're good for, I would say, if you're going to do like a trench event where you're not going to be firing or anything like that. They're quite good because you don't mind bashing them around. But they aren't as good as a deact. That goes without saying, I guess. But yeah, they're all right, but they're not great. Uh, Oh, thank Edgar Cardile. I hope I'm pronouncing the second name correctly there. I'm glad. I'm glad you were able to sort out all your kit and everything, and I'm glad the videos have been of use. That's really really good. That's exactly what the channel is for, really. I mean, obviously, hopefully talking a bit about history as well, but the idea is to give a bit of a guide to reenactors at various points, obviously. So yeah, it's uh, it's nice to know then whether the channel is of use. I guess it's fair to say it's nice when people say in the comments that videos have been useful. Yeah. Uh, right, Royal Engineers in both wars, Michael. Yeah, well, I say it's quite the contrast, and obviously the Royal Engineers took on a huge number of different roles in the Great War and in the Second War as well. So there's quite a lot of scope there, and obviously you had field companies, and there were mounted RE who wore mounted kit, and there were obviously the field companies who were equipped as infantry, and then obviously Royal Engineers operated by the lines who were provided with the bandolier equipment and so forth because they were technically second line troops. So there's quite a variety there really in terms of our RE kit for certainly the Great War. Um, yes, the earlier versions of different life jackets for the RN. They had a swimming collar. The cork life jackets are certainly a thing which are quite interesting, and K-pop as well. But you had a swimming collar and a simpler version of the life belt as well in use during the Great War. Some weird and wacky things. The swimming collar literally was a rubber ring you wore around your neck, which, yeah, I don't know, doesn't hold you very high out of the water, I guess, at that point. So not good in a high swell. But yes. Oh yes, yeah, Tom. I think you've mentioned that before. Of trying to get someone to buy the What Price Glory Central Europe battle dress. We're planning to get some for Lucy actually for ATS. The uh, the problem is that Soldier of Fortune is easier to get and off the peg rather than you have to wait for What Price Glory Central Europe, and there is a difference in cost as well. So I can see why people go for Soldier of Fortune, but What Price Glory Central Europe certainly is better. There can be no denying that. So yeah, a couple more questions here. Um, Canadian World War II reenactor. Yeah, I've heard about the Iron Bridge World War II weekend. I'm not booked in to go, but I've I love Iron Bridge. I have been before. I've been to the open air museum there, to the Living Museum. So I remember I went as a child, and I spent most of my time in the winding house of the pit there, having digested everything the chap there had to say about the winding engine. I started regurgitating it to members of the public as a, I guess not quite a toddler, but 7 or 8 maybe, like the little. Like the precocious little spurgler I was and am still, but yeah, John, if you had to choose just one period, which one? I mean, period, the Cold War. The period is difficult to nail down. The Cold War because it would give the greatest scope. I'd be able to collect a huge amount of stuff within that. So I don't know if that's breaking the rules of that game, but that's the answer I would give because it's the longest sort of time that can be put into one period. It's the problem with obviously we like to put things in boxes and they don't really fit that way. Um, David, hello David, how are you doing? David Sayer in the chat there, who's a chap I've spoken to previously on the channel. The My favourite era to reenact. Now that's a very good question, and I will narrow that down further. I suppose it also depends on theatre as well. I like jungle warfare in general. Certainly, 14th Army, the Far East, towards the end of the Second World War, I really like. But I like 60s and 50s jungle display, doing jungle displays from that period as well. So it's difficult to say from between those which is my favourite. But I do really like jungle warfare stuff. It's something we were involved with the UK was involved with in a big way right the way through from the Second World War, pretty much constantly all the way through into the 60s. And then we didn't get drawn into Vietnam. So you have to look at the Australian stuff there to pick up the story from a Commonwealth point of view, um, which I think the Americans were quite annoyed about because obviously we did have as a military force, the UK had quite a lot of experience of jungle warfare by that point. And a lot of chaps who'd served for a long time and had a lot of experience of different forms of jungle fighting. I think probably favourite period and sort of theatre would be late Second World War jungle, 14th Army, Chindits, and so forth. All the forces that were serving out there. Um, Jake is asking, I'll be sending the wedding invitations your way. So oh yes, fantastic, yeah, brilliant. Fingers crossed that we'll be well, and there's no looming exams or anything of that nature. It's the only thing I'm having to say at the moment is caveat it with study stuff, which is inflexible. But yeah, hopefully, hopefully all will be well, and we're very much looking forward to that. I mean, Benjamin, you're asking about the now, when you say 1940, when you say P40, which is not a designation the British Army ever used, do you mean 1940 pattern? If you mean 1940 pattern, do you mean the lined collar version of the battle dress serge, which is the pockets are slightly different position, but all the buttons are still concealed? I have made a guide on this, so I need to clarify exactly what pattern you're talking about. But the answer is Panther is the one to go for, which is what Press Glory Central Europe now. So they're back in production, and Tom has done a video looking at Tomachi in the chat here has done a video looking at these because he bought a set of the What Press Glory Central Europe. I have a set of Panther store, but Tom bought a set of the more recent production battle dress from What Price Glory Central Europe, which is the same stuff, and it's very, very good, and it's the best to go for, I would say. I don't know, Ben. Sorry, I can't answer that off the top of my head. That's not my area of expertise, I'm afraid. The M38A1. I'd have to look at what it was. I don't know it from the designation straight off, I'm afraid. The number designation. I have thought about getting a military vehicle. Yeah. I don't think I ever will. I've got too much else going on. I volunteer at the Steam Railway, and I have other hobbies as well. So a military vehicle would be a problem, I think, in terms of time and everything else. Have done some car maintenance today, which was enjoyable. Solved a problem with the car. So I do enjoy tinkering, and I enjoy working on stuff at the railway, all diesel engines and things like that, as well as the steam engines. But if I had limitless resources and time, I would buy an Austin Champ. I really like them. They're very charismatic little vehicles, and my grandfather remembers them fondly, or remembered them fondly from Korea. They used to trade them with the Americans because in the winter they had a glow plug engine, and unlike Jeeps, which had to be kept warm with fires overnight in the depths of the Korean winter, the Champ would fire up every time. You just operated the glow plug, warmed the engine through, and they would fire up. And they were very heavy. They'd sink in the mud in the summer, but in the winter, obviously, the roads were frozen, so they didn't sink. And the Americans would trade. As I remember, I think it was 4 Champs to a helicopter was the exchange rate that he remembers. So that's what I would get if I had my pick of military vehicles. Because it's a relatively practical thing, you can drive around on the road easily as well. The Odd Angry Shot or Danger Close, that's come from John Hayes. The Odd Angry Shot, I love that film. Because it is of its time in a way as well. I think it's very enjoyable to watch. I like it, and there's some really good humour in it, as well as being fairly like everything else, it's of its time as war movies go. But they've put some effort in to make the battalion lines look realistic and to show camp life in quite a realistic way, I think, or as realistic as you can, whilst keeping it viewer friendly, shall we say. So that's my answer to that. I do like Danger Close. I think it was well done. If I had the choice of watching the movie or the documentary that was made by the same chap, I believe it was made by the same chap, I'd watch the documentary, because it has some excellent recollections from the chaps who experienced that engagement fuck up. So yeah, it's. I would take the documentary as far as Danger Close is concerned. I like God Angry Shot, the film. I would watch that out of choice between the two, I think. Um, Colonel Arrow, are you just doing British or foreign too? I mean, my channel does encompass things which aren't British. I cover Commonwealth generally, British Empire and Commonwealth troops. So British to a point, given what I can cut, given what I can cover. Although mannequins, obviously, I can go a bit wider with that in terms of ethnicities of troops and so forth. The recreations are all what I can cover myself and be realistic about it. But Canadian, New Zealand, Australian, New Zealanders, Australians. I do hope to put a mannequin together for a parachute field ambulance, the Indian parachute field ambulance, who were out in Korea, and some other smaller defence forces and so forth from around the Commonwealth. And at some point, it's all in the works. But I do also cover a little bit of the um, American stuff as well with Vietnam. Obviously, comparisons with Australian kit there, and I have done some comparisons of US and British kit as well, the M1956 versus 1958 pattern. And obviously, I have sort of opposing forces kit. So I have MVA kit, the East German Army. Sorry, yes, I just talked about Vietnam. Not to be confused with the MVA, the North Vietnamese Army. I mean the National Volksarmy, the Army of East Germany. I have some MVA kit, and then you get the North Vietnamese Army using National Volksarmy helmets, which is very confusing. So you have the MVA using MVA helmets, but it's a different MVA. Anyway, and I cover Irish kit as John. Hello, John. How are you doing? John has mentioned I cover Irish kit as well, which going back far enough is Commonwealth, but then isn't after a time. So a lot of it is British and British derived. So yeah. Oh, Gary Burns has got a salad painted in Aiden camo markings. What are the uniforms like to get hold of? And another armoured car, hugely expensive champs don't have glow plugs. B40 roll petrol always start. Not sure of a question. All right, okay, must be misremembering. I was going to say I assume I understood that the champs had a warming plug in the engine to actually warm the engine block before it started. I'll have to look. Glow plug is possibly the wrong term, but I understood they did have a heating element to warm the engine block before they started. But I stand corrected if that is not the case. The uniforms for Aiden are difficult to get hold of to a degree. I'm hoping at some point What Price Glory might consider making the repros of the 1950 pattern uh, at least trousers, the crossover belt trousers. I think they would be very sought after, and then you could wear a 50s wool shirt, which are easy to get hold of, and KD trousers. That was quite a common thing to see, a wool shirt and KD trousers. That would make it a lot easier. As it stands, the era era correct KD uniform, and in some instances JG uniform that was worn out in Aden is a little bit difficult to get hold of, unfortunately. So yeah, it's not easy, alas. Um, then I have, unless that's just been posted twice, I can't answer that. I've already said, I'm afraid, I don't know. I would. I would suggest that Google is probably your friend as far as that's regarded, as far as that's concerned. It's not my area of expertise, I'm afraid. Um, yeah, yeah, the Commando Bergen, as it's colloquially known, is something I'd certainly like to talk about at some point. Yeah. That may be. Yeah, I think that's my secretary posting that question twice, Ben. Don't worry about it. Thank you for letting me know, darling. uh, yeah, yeah, I can definitely do a video talking about that. I actually have a 60s dated example as well, so I could possibly do a comparison. It's basically the same design, just made in green canvas and with green webbing straps rather than being tan. So yes. Um, Hello, Mr. House from Cold War Chemical. Hello, Cold War Chemical. Is Mr. House in reference to me being a homeowner now? I don't know. Yeah, it's difficult to find the post-war KD and JG stuff in decent sizes. As I say, what Price Glory have started reproducing 1960 pattern green combat uniform, and they're also looking at making 1968 pattern as well because there's that much demand, particularly in larger sizes. If they find that's profitable, hopefully they may consider making the post-war JG and KD uniforms as well. That would be good. Um, it would fill a gap in large sized, and obviously I'd consider buying them anyway because you don't. I prefer if they're decent repros. I prefer to wear repros for in situations where originals might get damaged. I mean, if I'm just standing around to display, it's not so bad, but anything more active than that, it would be good to have reproductions, and I might wear them around anywhere. I quite like particularly the KD 1950 pattern trousers are rather nice. Um, so yeah, a Highland dress for a reenactment, yeah, absolutely. I do. I have worn a kilt previously for reenacting. Great War without a. It was just with a standard service dress jacket, not the cutaway example. Of course, that was done at unit tailors originally. So you know if you didn't, it's quite common to see photos during the Great War. But full Highland dress, that would be fantastic. I am one day in my wild dreams of the future, I would like to have. I would like to extend back, historically speaking, possibly to the Crimean War era in terms of kit, maybe into the Napoleonic era, possibly. That would be a lot of stuff, and obviously most of it would be uh, repro. Well, all of it would be repro at that point. I think possibly some of the Victorian stuff, the 1888, the Slade Wallace kit might be real. There are still original bits of that floating around, and there are still original earlier bits floating around as well, but they're very rare and very expensive. But I may get earlier sets of reproduction equipment together, and then yeah, Highland dress would be amazing. But it's whether or not I could, as you say, if I had the resources to put it together, definitely. Um, yeah, let's see what else do we have here. Um, are there many British Army Korean War reenactors about? Not really, no, not a huge amount. Unfortunately, it's a shame. The early Korea, the kit varies massively. So early war, it's relatively easy to do. If you want to do 20, recreate Men of 27 Brigade, you can use US M1943 uniform, which is readily available as reproductions, and 1937 pattern web equipment, which is again readily available. 29 Brigade then arrive in the cold weather kit that had been designed during the Second World War, which includes the windproofs, the camouflage windproof suit, trousers, and smock, and the cold weather jerseys, the heavy wool jerseys, and so forth. That's a lot more difficult to get hold of. Not all of it is reproduced. And then you have 1944 pattern web equipment again, which is more difficult to get hold of than 1937 pattern. And then you have the combat uniform introduced going forward. In the summer, you have JGs. So again, repro 1950 pattern JGs would be useful. They would fill a gap there. But not many people do it, and the kit is not readily available. Unfortunately, you have to be a collector first, I guess, collect the stuff, and then go, well, I've got the kit together and I can wear it. So yeah. Um, recent full dress. I do have well, recent. I have guards, um, full dress and forage cap, full dress jacket and forage cap from the 30s. I have some blues uniform that's more recent than that, and some number two uniform. But in blues uniform, I have a few bits and pieces. I don't really collect dress uniform much at all, so it's not. Yeah, it's not a focus of mine in terms of collecting. So I don't have a huge amount of dress uniform. Will I ever do Boer War? Yes, I already have some Slade Wallace stuff together and the basics of Boer War kit to a degree. I would definitely like to get involved in Boer War reenacting and be able to put together, reproduction, but relatively good sets of kit on a mannequin for my own enjoyment, even if I don't make videos on them. The kit is really interesting. The KD uniform, the early KD uniform, well, not early, KD had been around for a while, but relatively early, sort of standardized KD uniform, and the Slade Wallace kit and everything else. Uh, yeah, and the introduction of webbing bandoliers and all that sort of stuff is fascinating. The Boer War kit is really, really interesting. So yeah, it's definitely something I'd be interested in expanding into, and probably will be the next thing I do when when I feel the inclination to go in that direction and sort of extend backwards. Tom, favorite beret color? That's a really good question that I don't have an answer to off the top of my head. You know, that's difficult. I could be really obtuse with that if I wanted to be, but it would be a lie. So, because there's some crazy beret colors in Africa, like bright yellows and oranges and purples and all sorts of stuff. Um, um, so the standard infantry beret color was midnight blue for a very long time, and then the guards and some other regiments adopted khaki, because you actually see the guards wearing midnight blue for a while. The introduction of the beret is interesting because you have the khaki beret introduced, or the drab beret introduced during the Second World War, drab beret with a brown sweatband, and then you have the midnight blue beret introduced just post-war in the late 40s, and then they have a sort of there's a switch over period where the khaki beret disappears and the blue takes over, and then obviously you have the airborne beret and the commando beret and the tanky beret mixed in with that. Then you have the Air Corps beret comes in and various other things, the khaki beret for the guards and some other regiments. I think the Anglians wear a khaki beret later on as well. I don't know what the standard is now. There are quite a different mix. I know khaki is very common. I don't know if it is the standard. I don't know if infantry now wear khaki and corps troops now wear blue. You'd have to ask someone who's more knowledgeable on current uniform. I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I'd definitely be interested in some combat pens to go in respirator haversacks. Definitely, CWC, that would be fantastic. Yeah, if you have them spare, please do drop me an email or drop me a message elsewhere, and we can chat about it. That'd be great. Um, I'm just reading Will the World War II Collector's comment here. Yeah, I was talking about this earlier in the stream. Will's asking about the sort of reenacting guide for Great War than rather than Second War. I could do with getting a set of decent repro uniform really for Great War. I currently use the new pattern service dress, colloquially referred to as 1922 pattern. Just a minute, I'm just going to have to stoke the fire because it is dying on me. In fact, it is nearly dead. That's not good. I've been neglecting my fire, which is not good. You better not actually die. I'll be very angry because I'll be angry with myself. Is what I mean. Hold on, chaps. Loading. By which I mean loading the fire. It may actually require some breath on this as well. So yeah, as I was saying, I need to get some reproduction Great War service dress really before I can make videos on that, and I do plan to at some point. So yeah, yes, that's certainly something I can do in the future, definitely. Just one moment. I mean, I'm too warm, so I don't really need to get this going again, but I do like having a fire on. Right. That should, in theory, pick up of its own accord. My apologies for that, everyone. Right, so right, where are we up to here? So we were talking about Great War kit. Um, Have you ever heard of the Thetford Northern Ireland combat helmet? Ah, yes. I managed to pick one up for no, very little, similar to Paradigm 66. Yes. They're quite interesting. The Northern Ireland combat helmet. They can, of course, be fitted with a visor as well. Really interesting predecessor to the sort of more general introduction of composite helmets into the British Army. Something I'd love to pick up, but they are quite rare. So you're very lucky having one there, I have to say. And I'd be interested to see some photos if you wouldn't mind sending them over. Interesting to know it's a work in progress, a trial item potentially, if that's what you mean. But yes, my most referred to reference books. Now, it depends on period, but I can say that easily for Second World War. In fact, I'll grab it now. I've made a video looking at this previously. Well, I can get two down actually. So, my two most referenced books, or the two books I turn to most of all, is The British Army Uniforms and Insignia of World War II by Brian L. Davis. It doesn't cover everything in huge detail, but covers a great deal in a lot of detail. So it really is a fantastic reference, and I highly recommend getting a copy of this. It is referred to by some as the Bible, and it's certainly a good first port of call for Second War information on British uniforms, kit, insignia, and it has all sorts of stuff on specialist clothing and things as well. Back, anti-gas kit, all sorts of stuff. So really, really good. Actually talked about the trial uniform that was considered pre-war as well, which is great. And then I have Uniforms and Equipment of the British Army in World War One, a study in period photographs, which is fantastic because it goes through infantry, corps troops, different theatres of war, and covers them in great detail in these lovely, in some instances, studio, in some instances, posed outdoor photographs, group photographs showing various different forms of kit and so forth. So it's an absolutely fantastic reference and well worth purchasing. It's quite a big book. There's a lot of very high quality photographs in here. So I recommend both of those from Second World War and First World War point of view. Definitely. And there are some I use for Cold War as well, but I don't think I've got quite such easy access to them. So close that door. I'm going to stay closed. Yeah. So moving on, did the British ever do their own version of the South African Defence Force Pattern 83 vest? Now that's a good question. I don't believe so, but the 1983 chest rig, I suppose, vest is a very interesting and very advanced bit of kit for its time for general issue. Yeah, a very interesting bit of kit, but I don't believe the British ever did their own version. That is to say, they didn't copy it and then make it in DPM, for example. There were chest rigs, and they became very common in the late 80s and into the 90s for use in Northern Ireland, and they do turn up in the Gulf as well. Very, very similar, but they aren't the same. I suppose in that regard, we did use their own version, but it wasn't a copy thereof made in their own colours, suitable for more temperate climes. So, yeah, that's the answer to that. Mm, that was very nice. I will have another. Um, so, would I do a video on British infantrymen in India or China policing just after the Great War? I've considered sort of colonial policing as a topic for videos in general. Really, I think it's a very interesting thing. But certainly, yeah, I'd actually thought of Royal Navy ratings in China as well as a possibility. But yes, it's or a Royal Navy officer for that matter. But yes, definitely, it's on the cards for the future at some point, possibly. I can't say for definite, but I definitely consider it to answer your question. I don't have any of the Cold War chemical. I don't have any of the 85. Oh no, that's not true. I have the B type 85 trials entrenching tool cover, which is the most common bit of it to find, and I have one utility pouch, I think. To be clear, the 85 pattern is the trial version of PLCE, which used press studs on straps rather than I think the Spanish origin, actually, the little plastic quick release tabs. So there were two versions of it, one with drop pouches and one which was very similar to the later PLC that was actually introduced, just with these different fastenings, A and B type trials sets. I would like to get some of the certainly the type B. I don't believe there's much of the type A around at all, but I'd like to. I do have nylon 58. I have a sort of skeleton set of it. I have a yoke, the two ammunition pouches, the rear pouches, and I have a stand-in belt, which isn't actually a nylon 58 pattern belt, but it's a more recent version of the 58 pattern belt made in nylon, just as a trouser belt, and it's exactly the same design. Um, I've actually been able to look at some sealed pattern examples of it at the National Army Museum, and hopefully we'll be making a video on that next time I go there. But yeah, it's something I'd like to get hold of. I do like trials kit a lot. I find it very interesting. Um, but yeah, Victor Creedy asking about officers training corps at uni. Any advice? I mean, on any specific points? Make sure you can hold your drink. Get engaged and involved as much as possible. You know, if there are opportunities to go off on camps and things like that, and or in my case, I didn't actually get to go to sea, but I did get to go to Britannia Royal Naval College, which was rather good, and do some other training activities and things. Try and get involved as much as you can and make the most of it. Because even if you don't actually end up going into the forces, it's a very good experience and very enjoyable. And I say it's the only way I was going to get to Britannia, because I was never going to be allowed to actually join the Navy proper, so or the reserves for that matter. So it was probably the closest. Well, it is the closest I will ever get, and I did get to go to somewhere that's of great interest to me, which was, as I say, BRNC, um, which, as I say, I would not have otherwise got the chance to go and well spend a bit of time there. I think it was a couple of weekends, and got to go around the college and get on various training activities. Went out on the little picket boats and things like that. So it was good, very very enjoyable. But um, oh right, okay, cool, Jake. Yeah, Jake just messaging about the episode of the podcast he recorded with the guys from Fighting on Film. Will be airing in a few weeks, uh, on Tuesday in a few weeks' time. So yeah, that'll be worth a watch, definitely. Um, yeah, I'd love to get on the podcast. That'd be great. I'd I'd love to be part of that at some point. Oh, excuse me, slurping. That's terrible. I'd like to do various things at the National Army Museum. I was very gratified to be invited there by Ian Main, who's the I forget his actual title, but he's one of the directors. Anyway, I forget his actual specific title, which is bad. But anyway, I was very kind of them to invite me down to Stevenage to the well, it's the reserve collection. I suppose in as much well, it's this collection storage for the vehicles are there, or some of the vehicles are there. You've got all the edged weapons, large amount of insignia, web equipment, that sort of things, uniforms, and then the firearms are kept elsewhere. Um, but the bayonets are kept at Stevenage, so yeah, it makes sense at an admin level, I'm sure. So yeah, I've got other plans for things to film there, and I need to get in touch with Ian again. Now my exams are out of the way for January, and liaise with him. One thing I thought of doing was a sort of timeline of entrenching tools, because I understand they have some of the trials items there, and they have some early Victorian era stuff, which could be interesting to do a timeline of entrenching tools. Maybe I need to talk to Ian about that. Again, I don't want to put too many ideas out there in case they're not feasible, but it's a bit of kit which is sort of always there on the soldier's person, or often there on the soldier's person, and then you know. Uniform items would be good to look at. There's more trials bits and pieces to look at, more sealed pattern stuff which you can't see elsewhere. I have to say, seeing the sealed pattern version of the Boots Urban Patrol was really really good. That was not something you'd see um, it's not something you'd see elsewhere. I don't think there can't be many of those surviving because of the fact the souls disintegrate, and they were worn to death. So getting to see a sealed pattern example of one of those, very interesting, and look at the details of it. Um, yeah, the has the NAM improved since the video? Yeah, the video they made talking about the comparisons of kit. So they did it in I think it was in 2014 for the anniversary of the outbreak of the Great War. They made a series of videos with a reenactor whose name I forget, talking about Great War kit, and it was. See, this is the thing is that will not have been produced by the same people I'm talking to within the NAM. So this is the problem: is looking at the NAM is one organisation, obviously, but within the NAM, there are different people who deal with social media. There are different people who deal with this, different people who deal with this. That was not the best of things. I have to say that those videos, and I did make a response to them, as you'll have seen. Has the museum improved? I mean, I don't think the museum was ever, you know, that doesn't sort of reflect on the museum itself. It just reflects on that particular production that the museum put out, and that wasn't great, and that's why I commented on it. Obviously, what it was comments made about the British enamel water bottle, and the reenactor involved in this video for the NAM said that the water will soon. It has to be drunk quickly because it will soon turn into a fetid brown liquid or something, a tepid brown liquid, I think it was, in summer heat. And if you put clean water into an enamel water bottle, it will stay clean. So yeah. Thank you, Colonel Arrow. Yes, have a nice evening as well, whatever you're going off to. Um, yeah, so yeah, that was just a ridiculous statement to make, and it's only a small thing, but it's a comment like that that can get in the public's mind. It's like amphetamines in the ration chocolate, that can get into your head. That's been a perpetuated myth that's gone round and round and round, and various other things. Rats as big as cats. There is actually a story for that, which is something that comes from misreading of, you know, um, historical, people talking about their experiences in the trenches and things like this. So it only takes one little instance of this for myths to be perpetuated, which is why I commented on it. The enamel water bottle is perfectly good at keeping water fresh, provided the water's clean in the first place. Anyway, that's my little rant on that. Over. We don't need to go on ad nauseum regarding that. But yeah, I have to say this is very pleasant to be streaming again. It's nice. It's been a while. I like this a little bit more informal, just relaxed chat, and thank you all for subscribing. Those of you who are subscribed, I'm presuming most people who are watching are probably subscribed, and just having a nice evening like this. It's really nice. It's very relaxing after obviously having had exams at the start of the month as well. Not having that hanging over me and doing something as relaxing as this is very enjoyable. So yeah, it's good, very very good. I'm just going to fettle my fire again, so I'll be back in just a moment because I think I'll be back in a moment. Yeah, UG exams, UG studying, all that stuff, Tom, definitely. Yeah, this has died. I've allowed my fire to die, so I should just get some. That's terrible. That's me chatting and not paying attention. Don't take much. It's nice and hot. So the amount of port I've drunk, I should be able to just breathe on it, and it should go really. Right. Note to yourself when live streaming. Oh, I didn't realise I disappear entirely off screen when I'm dealing with that. Sorry, everyone. I could have tilted the camera down. Yeah, I haven't live streamed in a while, so yeah. Ah, cool. Okay, Cobalt Chemical. Yeah, no, that's I know now. Yes, yeah, I remember your old channel. Yeah, reenactorisms are very annoying, and I've been guilty of them in the past as well. It happens. Get that, because when you're reading stuff and listening to people, you're maybe not as critical as you might be, um, and you can pick up stuff which is just, it sounds plausible but isn't true. And then obviously, the simple fact is, if you then tell that story to other people, it's perpetuating it. So yeah, it is unfortunate. Yeah, yeah, we're looking forward to that. Living History Festival should be good. Uh, yeah, that's very true. Why would love to have people join the stream now and wonder why I was making noises under the table. That's very true, Lucy. Yeah, that would have been amusing. Why is Simon muttering to himself somewhere off camera? Yeah, sorry, messing with the fire, which does appear to be going. So that's good. I'm ashamed of letting my fire go out. That's not good at all. Um, Thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, I'd love to visit New Zealand at some point in the future. It's yeah, it's a country I'm very interested in. I've actually interested in the New Zealand Wars. That's another thing of getting back to sort of Victorian era reenacting. Kit for New Zealand would be interesting. The blue, I believe they were referred to as jerseys, but it was actually like a blue almost service dress jacket was worn out there. So quite a different look for the British infantrymen serving out there, and obviously the various police units and so forth. Fascinating. Some really good documentaries on YouTube actually that have been made available, probably posted without authority, without probably copyright infringing, but nevertheless very interesting. New Zealand history in general very interesting. I'm also interested in railways, and I like New Zealand narrow gauge railway system and the bush tramways and things as well. So quite a lot of interest in there in various different ways. But yes, let's see if I can catch up with this. Where are we looking here? I'm doing this here. So yeah, Talking Brown, Tim Stamper. Yeah, Talking Brown best that whistles. Yes, apologies for that. Just to say before, someone was mentioning a land pattern. This is actually it's a Denix. It is a land pattern that Denix makes, but I've modified it. I removed where this join is in the stock. You may not be able to actually see that in the video because the webcam is pretty awful. But there's a join in the stock there where there was originally a barrel band, which I removed because best muskets don't have land pattern muskets don't have barrel bands. And I actually removed the nose cap as well, so it looks more like a sea service musket, and that was the idea behind it. But it will be going at some point because I want to replace it with something much nicer. Uh, what are your thoughts on the direction of the National Museums are going with respect to most of the kit is in storage? Yeah, that's a difficult one. The National Army Museums seem to be making some changes in that regard. There's a lot of stuff being prepared to go on display. Uh, I certainly prefer, from my point of view, I prefer the older style of museum with lots of stuff on display rather than audiovisual experiences and so forth. Um, that's my preference of the two. But I have seen some museums, I suppose it's a National Museum thing. There are still plenty of museums who do it that way. I was really heartened. We went to the Museum of Liverpool a little while ago, and it's the city museum. It's not military focused at all. And yet the cabinet with military kit in it was really good. They had volunteer uniforms from the volunteer battalions, Victorian era volunteer uniforms from volunteer battalions, um, probably Edwardian as well, from Liverpool, specifically Liverpool, which were very interesting. And they had a really good Korean War, Northern Ireland, and I think Second War mannequin set up. So not even you always expect them to maybe do First War and Second War, but they actually had some really good, well, post-war mannequins as well. Let's say Cold War with Korea, and then obviously the Troubles as well. So that was really really good. I was very impressed, and someone there clearly knows their stuff because they dressed the mannequins very well and done a really nice job. So yeah, yeah, kit should not be. It's why I. There we go. Fire's going well now. Good stuff. It's why I like making these videos. Is it allows me to get stuff out of boxes and show it to people more than I can at reenacting events. Which is why I love doing reenacting whilst being a collector, because you get the opportunity, particularly with the sort of displays we do, getting kit out and putting it on display and showing people, which is lovely. Um, that sounds good, Shadow Man. I hope that goes well. Closest we've really got to that. I mean, I need to get onto Monty's Men or something like that. I mean, I did the trench event last year, which was really, really good. Enjoyed that. Literally sleeping out in the open at night in the trench. Um, it was a really good experience. So yeah, uh, have you got or seen ROD Rail Operation for 1950-1919 by William Wallace? I haven't. No, I need to get a copy of that because I'm quite interested in the ROD. It combines my interests. I mean, I'm more interested in the light railway operating companies, which obviously operated the small stuff, which is what I volunteer with. I drive and look after, or help to look after. Doing some track laying tomorrow, actually, so or track relaying, track maintenance, which will be good. But yeah, no, I'll have to have a copy of that. I'll make a note of that. I'll copy that myself into the chat we're using to highlight questions, and there we go. Just Lucy has already copied it across, but I'm just copying it across again as a point of reference. Yeah, good question, Tim. Replacing the musket with something more modern, or the sleeker Baker rifle of the similar period? No, going older, actually, going back in time, probably to an early flintlock, so or early firelock, so English Civil War era, probably with the nice. They've got a almost an oar, not oars, the wrong description, but a paddle shaped stock. So the stock comes out to a flare like that, like a fishtail. There we go, fishtail, slightly, somewhat, and they're very, very nice aesthetic to them. So probably get a repro example of one of those. Tom, have you ever seen any ghosts at reenactments? I saw one at my last event. Well, I haven't personally, and I don't. I'm sorry, I don't believe ghosts exist. So yeah, that's my. I've never seen any evidence or been presented with any evidence that would convince me that ghosts exist. So I am of the opinion that they don't exist, and I say I haven't seen one. So yeah, that's my opinion on the matter. Royan, favourite YouTube channels? Uh, that's a good question, actually. I like the British Army documentaries. They've got some good stuff on the Falklands and Borneo and things. That's a good channel. I quite often go back to their stuff on the Falklands as reference, just watching through the footage again. Found a really interesting one today of a chap, Royal Navy rating, I don't know if he was rating or an officer, but a rating probably on the upper decks, serving as an improvised anti-aircraft gunner, and he's wearing an NEBA, improved Northern Ireland body armour, over his white roll neck sweater. Can't tell whether he's got the plates in place or not, but he's wearing improved Northern Ireland body armour in the Falklands in 1982. That's over the top of something, so you can actually tell, which is it's designed to be worn underneath the combat smock, obviously. I've seen lots of photos of the preceding designs with the rubber shoulder stops on the rubber blocks on the shoulders as stops. I've seen lots of those being worn by upper deck gunners, anti-aircraft gunners, but not in EBA. And I have that. So it's just rewatching this stuff. You see new stuff all the time. It's only one chap I've seen, but nevertheless interesting. Other channels, obviously Forgotten Weapons, of course. I do really like Forgotten Weapons, particularly the videos I go back to on Forgotten Weapons are the weird Chinese pistols that he has, that he finds at auctions and things, where they've been crudely made by local gunsmiths, and stamped with all sorts of wacky things. Another one is the Khyber Pass weapons he sometimes looks at as well. There's a really good one, which is a Martini action built as a pistol in 303 British, and it actually has a broad arrow on the side of the receiver made up from the word Enfield stamped in a broad arrow shape. Enfield, Enfield, Enfield. I'd really like those videos. I used to watch some of Hickok's 45 stuff, um, but I can't rewatch them. Like watching them first time, and then they're great second time round. It's just a personal thing. Nothing against the man at all. But I do like some of his videos, or have watched some of his videos going forward. Obviously, British muzzleloaders is always worth a watch. I often go back to British muzzleloaders videos. There are some that are definitely some of my favourites that I will go and rewatch again and again and again. Particularly those that have a good bit of dry humour in them, which they often do. Trying to think, what other channels do I watch? Do watch some of the Armourer's Bench. That's good. I watch Tom's videos on his kit, on the Norwegian kit. Do find that interesting. Trying to think what else. There are some channels reviewing mess kits and things like that. I like some of those. I can't think of the names of them straight off the top of my head, but I do like those. Like John's channel, obviously John Shanahan. I do watch John's videos. Try and keep up. I'm not very good at that, but I do try and keep up. I make time and go and watch them. I do enjoy John's stuff. John Shanahan, that is, who's in the chat. Um, uh, Trying to think other channels I watch really regularly because I tend to just search for specific things, documentaries and stuff like that on YouTube. Um, Trying to think. Probably more will come to me as the chat goes on, so I will. Yeah, I will come back if I think of any more. Kenny Rebel, yeah, I collect loads of Cold War equipment. I think probably 70% of my channel is looking at Cold War stuff. Yeah. Uh, Do you know that Mark II? So Cold War Chemical. Did you know that Mark II overts were had in the Gulf by the second line troops? Or Steve 1989 is a good channel. Yeah. Mark II overboots. I'm not surprised they were still around and used by second line troops. There was a huge rush on to get chaps fully kitted up with NBC kit. I've talked to David Sayer about this, and having reused. I think it was David who mentioned this rather than Jim Toms. I think it was you who mentioned, David, if you're still in the chat, about obviously in Germany in training you'd reuse the same NBC suit over and over again, and then suddenly all this new stuff's coming out the works, and obviously they were rushing to get Desert DPM NBC suits out there and all sorts of stuff. Not many got out there. Most men were still wearing green NBC suits, including the US Marine Corps, which is an interesting thing. They use British NBC kit in terms of the suits, at least. But yeah, I'm not surprised about that. That being the case, because there was a huge rush to get kit sorted, and NBC kit in particular, because it was is seen as a serious threat, because Saddam had used it against the in his previous conflicts. He had used chemical weapons and against his own population as well, I believe. So, if I remembering correctly. So yeah, not good, and the threat was seen as being very real. And there was more to back that up even than there was to think that the Germans were going to use poison gas in World War II. And you saw all the equipment everything was introduced due to that. The threat in the Gulf was much more credible. So yeah, restoration videos are always good. I love the series. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but Salvage Squad, which was very mainstream normie TV, but it looked at restoring old bits of kit, and they did a Centurion Royal Engineers armour vehicle from the Gulf, which was still serving in the Gulf, an old Centurion tank with a 152mm demolition gun, I believe. The latter equivalent of the petard mortar on the the Churchill Aviary, and they did restore a simplex armored loco, which was used in the First World War, and I'm definitely interested in that one because latterly I've driven it, which was quite good fun. But the one they actually restored, which was good. I'm sus. Why am I sus? What have I done? 165mm was it? Right? Yeah. And Cold War Chemical not only claiming that I'm sus, which I absolutely disavow. The S6 survived to fight a second edition British issue. You've got my 2 bits and the Mark 1 gloves. Oh, interesting. Okay. Didn't know that. Yeah, I made a short video talking about my AR-15, which is not an AR-15. It's an AR-15 lookalike in 2.2 long rifle. It was. It's now deactivated. Yeah, I could certainly make a video talking a bit more about the AR-15 and British service. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because, of course, it was introduced into service not as a standard rifle, but really before it became a big thing with the Americans, and it was a very effective weapon, of course. And they were in service for a very long time before the M6, latter versions of the M16 were introduced in the 80s. So it showed really that the AR-15 was a perfectly good weapon in its first iteration. It didn't need the forward assist and all the rest, provided it was well looked after and provided it, it used the right ammunition, etc., etc., etc. So Please keep this stream unlisted instead of private. Uh, we'll watch later. Oh yeah, no, it will be public. It is public and will be public. See you, CWC. Bye for now. The G3, other than possibly special forces, I don't believe the G3 was ever used in any numbers. Uh, it could well have been used by special forces, but I can't say. I don't know. I'm afraid, Kenny. Sorry. Um, yeah, yeah. I need to look more into the into Irish history in World War Two. Really, the emergency, as it's referred to, of course. I need to look at that, and it's something I'd be interested in getting sort of more kit together. You know, looking at that. There's a chap, Jack Sams, who's put some really good stuff um, with interwar. Uh, Sort of late 30s Irish kit, which is really good. Blackened web equipment, the green uniform, and the Vickers helmet, which is essentially the German Great War, late Great War helmet with the Irish badge on the front. And as I say, I'd quite like to, you know, in an ideal world, ideal world, I'd love to have a set of uniform to go like that as well. But no, John, I definitely need to use I definitely need to look into that more and get my head around the actual Irish uh, situation, what was going on in Ireland during the Second World War. I definitely need to get my head around that in greater detail. It's not something I've really looked into in a great amount of detail, but something I'm interested in and would like to read more on, definitely. Nathan, hello Nathan, how are you doing? Um, yeah, I'd love to do something like that. I was thinking this the other day. I, there's a really funny thing that there's a photograph. Forget which book it's in. There's a chap, and there's a railway line up in Darjeeling, the Darjeeling and Himalayan Railway, which runs up from the plain, up the side of the foothills of the Himalayas of Darjeeling, to go up to Hill Station to allow British. Well, it was originally Raj officials to go up and get away from the heat of the plane. And there's a brilliant photograph of a chap in JGs and a bush hat, posing with his foot up on the front buffer beam. And that would be so, because the engines are still running. That would be so cool to recreate, and it's something I'd love to do. It would be amazing. I mean, the logistics of it might be a little difficult, but yeah, that would be fascinating and really interesting to do. And I mean, from a more serious point of view as well, from actually going and doing a living history trip, that would be fascinating. I think you'd need local knowledge, etc., to do it safely. Obviously, in terms of the jungle is not a hospitable place, but yeah, it would be good. Battle of Narvik impression when yeah, I know Tom, I know. I'm really impressed with your Norwegian stuff. I do enjoy watching your stuff on that. It's a bit different and it's enjoyable. So I'll leave that up to you. Um, I think early war Battle of Narvik. I have got the early war kit to do it. So and the early commando stuff as well. So I could do some of that. Um, yeah. Yes. Oh, hello, Herefordshire Regimental Museum. Um, where are we up to here? Have you thought about making more videos on Rhodesian kit? What do you mean more videos? I haven't made any videos on Rhodesian kit. The only video I've made on relating to Rhodesia is looking at the British element of the Commonwealth Monitoring Force. Now that is a blues uniform I have. A friend of mine uh, wasn't a major at the time. He came out of the army as a major in the Royal Signals, and he was out there for as part of the Commonwealth Monitoring Force. So I have his blues jacket, which has the Rhodesia the medal, the Rhodesian medal, which is rather nice to have. I would love to get Rhodesian kit together. I do really like Rhodesian brushstroke camouflage and so on, but I don't think it's something I can focus on at the moment. Not for any particular reason. It's just I saw a pair of trousers up for sale the other day, and I thought maybe they'd probably fit as well because I'm a skinny git. But no, it's a possibility, but I don't know. Maybe going forward, maybe. Um, okay. Do you know if you'd be able to acquire any 1961 or 1970 pattern South African webbing and make a video on it? I'd love to. There are videos looking at certainly 70 pattern, the 1970 pattern webbing. There are already videos looking at that on YouTube in some detail. But because of its being a derivative of 1958 pattern, both of them really, in terms of overall design. It certainly, I'd be interested to pick some up if I found some at the right price. It's sort of a resource management thing. But I find them both interesting, both sets of equipment. So yeah, I'd be interested to. Um, uh, yeah, I've already yeah. Asking about early videos being remade. I mean, I have remade some already, only a few. Um, I definitely would remake some because the video quality. I mean, I think I was in my late 20s. I think I'm making videos that look like they're made by some kid. It's just what I had the resources for at the time. I was literally filming on my mobile phone and didn't have a tripod or anything. So I'm going to set my fire again because it is liable to go out without attending. Maybe get some oils on here. Put on there. Okay. The problem with this wood burner is it's very efficient, so it burns through things far too quickly. It makes a lot of heat, but it burns stuff far too quickly. So I would definitely remake some. I do plan to remake some. Um, it would be nice to remake some of them and make some comparisons where I didn't draw comparisons previously. So talking about the trials kit, some of the trials web equipment and stuff, and actually compare it to issue kit and see what the differences were and things like that. See what the advantages and disadvantages were and so forth. Yeah, there are definitely videos that need remaking purely from a production point of view. They're not up to scratch. They're very poorly made. Um, but yeah, so yeah. Speaking of sort of Irish stuff, not necessarily Irish stuff, Northern Irish stuff. I'm surprised I don't have the all the up the ra comments on the most recent video looking at anti-riot kit. I've so far mercifully been uh, been spared that. I'm sure it's coming, but I do. Obviously it's a serious issue and close to a lot of people's hearts, and it is, and it's fascinating, and you've got to look at the history and take a serious stance on it. But I do find some of the comments on the videos really, really funny. From I presume teenage keyboard warriors. I don't know, but especially when there's absolutely nothing overtly political in the videos at all, on one way or the other, and I just find it highly amusing. But which is why all the comments are still there. So yes, yeah, exactly. Up the Royal Artillery, precisely so. Yes. Um, uh, yeah, I'd be interested to see a link. Certainly, thank you for that. Yeah, the 1953 dated Australian slouch hat. If there's a link to that, I'd be interested to see. Most definitely. Thank you very much. Always very happy when people send things my way to at least look at. Even if it's not something I end up buying, it's very very much appreciated. Oh, you sent out the word to leave me be. Thank you, John. That's very kind of you. As I say, it's the fact that the videos are not in any way political. I suppose the one I said, obviously, where I'll explain this here actually, because I think it's an interesting point. The video where I'd recreated from a photograph that was taken in Londonderry or Derry, whichever side of that question you're on. And obviously, I used Londonderry in the title of the video because that's what the British Army would have referred to it as at the time, and indeed, serving British soldiers from the time often still do, and that's what's officially on a map. Now, if I was talking about, you know, Londonderry in casual conversation, I'd probably say Derry because my great grandfather used to visit Ireland, Northern Ireland and Ireland regularly, and he would just refer to it as Derry. So I would probably just pick up that idiom. But I used Londonderry for a specific reason, in that the British Army would at the time have referred to it as that, and yet that drew a huge amount of political ire in the comments. Which, as I say, I just genuinely find amusing. Because what does a YouTube comment do? What does it achieve? But anyway, thank you. Yes, I shall look at that later on. Thank you for that. I'll have to go and check my emails tomorrow because I keep forgetting to check the Rifleman Moore YouTube account, email account. You'll notice I'm on T now. from a Sports Direct mug. Enough port for me. 2 glasses is enough for me if I want to get up in the morning. Um, so yeah, what else have we got in the chat here? Oh, we have a discussion about the G3. I've missed some of this, so I'm not going to weigh in. Um, yeah, I'd be interested in getting over to and have a look at some of the. Oh, you managed to get 60 pattern DPM as well. Brilliant. Yes, they are. Yeah, they're. It's a nice set of uniform in DPM, I have to say, and harder to find these days. No, I'm definitely interested to go over to Northern Ireland and have a look at, where possible, have a look at some of these sites. I mean, some people say it's history. It's not history. It's still ongoing. Well, okay, yeah, but there are historic events linked to it. So you know, I suppose it. I don't want to think of places becoming tourist traps, in that regard. But there's interest to it, and I would like to do that at some point, definitely. Um, I do find the troubles fascinating. So yeah. Um, Yeah, IDF kit. Are we talking? So, I'm guessing we're talking Irish Defence Force there, Ryan. I'm assuming so. Uh, there is a lot of British influence. Yeah, I have. Um, uh, well, 60s, 70s. I have 80s Irish combat uniform. The 60s. Yeah. Oh, Israeli Defence Force. Right. Okay. So yeah, IDF like NVA has multiple different connotations. Yeah. No. Lots of British influence and American influence in the Israeli kit. Definitely. It is interesting. I mean, they have their own version of 37 pattern, at least to some degree, which is interesting. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, no, IDF. It's IDF. I think of as Irish primarily because that's what I collect of the two. I don't really collect Israeli Defence Force stuff. The only thing I have is a 1982 dated Dubon Parker, which will actually be coming up in a video tomorrow. I use it as a stand-in for an Argentine example. So, yeah, yeah. I was going to say, John. I know you've commented on this previously about the shit the Irish Defence Forces got, the army in particular, for their anti-terrorism duties during the Troubles. And quite a lot of interest there. The interesting stuff there. Plan to make some more videos on that going forward. Obviously, it's something I've covered to a degree. I really want to pick up a set of the three-quarter collar body armour with the Irish cover. The Irish Defence Forces used like I don't know, it's cotton, but a poly cotton cover with button pockets, quite distinctive with the three-quarter collar body armour. So I think they're quite rare. So I think the Irish Defence Forces had a tendency to destroy quite a lot of kit or slash it so it couldn't be used. So whether they still exist, I don't know, but I'd be interested to pick one up if I can ever find one. So yeah. Um, JREX, sorry, yeah, JREX Gaming. Where do you get most of your things from, and how long have you been collecting? I've been collecting just probably, let's think, about 13 years now, probably somewhere around there. Yeah, you know a man that knows a man, John. Yes. Um, so about 13 years, probably a little bit longer with some bits. And I get most stuff has really come from friends or shows. Some of it comes from eBay. As John knows a man who knows a man. Some stuff comes from friends, and yeah, it's a case of that's how I managed to get hold of an Irish Oralite helmet. For example, not John specifically, but or did that one come from John? I can't remember. I need to keep scrum on that in some instances now. I'm only joking, but yeah, it's being able to find stuff is sometimes impossible unless someone is looking out for you in a different market, if you will. So, in some instances, uh, yeah, it's that's very kind. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Yes, if there's a lead on the body armor, I'd be very much appreciative of that. As I say, it's quite distinctive with the button pockets and everything, and it turns up a lot in photographs of Irish troops in the 80s, of course. A brilliant thing, and I did mention it in the video I made looking at the Irish combat uniform and the 58 pattern, talking about assistance to the Garda and searching for weapons caches in Ireland. I made that video a little while ago now, a month or so ago. I think it was just before Christmas. The Irish national broadcast, the RTE, have an archive online of footage, which is brilliant, and it shows a lot of. Sorry, it's pronounced. Oh God, I don't know if I dare do this on stream. Porrick, Porrick, Porrick. Ooh, I don't know. If I keep trying different iterations, you'll have to tell me whether I've got it right or not. So yeah, it's um, right. Canadian Cold War and World War Two stuff. I don't know the good reference for Canadian World War Two stuff. Cold War stuff, though, there is. I mean, obviously, I've put some stuff out on the channel myself in terms of the web equipment. You've got the 1951 pattern and the 1964 pattern covered on the channel. And I think they probably are useful references in and of themselves. There is a website which the Canadian Military Police Museum run, I believe, and that has the different iterations of combat uniform and so forth on there, and battle dress, and some Second War stuff as well. And that's actually quite a useful general resource. It's not just military police specific. Um, so that can be quite a good reference. Unfortunately, in terms of books for Second War Canadian stuff, I can't help you there. Yeah. Um, yeah. Ian sends me. Yeah. Hello. Yes. Ian does send me a heck of a lot of stuff. It's very good of him, he's been very, very helpful, particularly when it comes to US kit, obviously, and sorting me out with that. And yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, um, I don't know which one was perfect. Parik, Parik. Hopefully, I don't know. Porik. You have to the last one. Oh dear, it's on record anyway. Me struggling with that. Um, so yes, yeah. It's yeah, that's true. 30th anniversary of the involvement in Bosnia. My issue with that is I sort of stick to the periods I collect, and Bosnia kind of falls outside of my area of collecting. So I don't really. Well, I suppose I do have the kit to do it, so I could do something for Bosnia, possibly, but it's not. I'd need to do some reading up and stuff, and it's not something I don't know why, because I at school when I was in CCF, obviously some of the chaps who were involved with that had served in Bosnia, so it came up and I was interested. So I should have spoken to them more really at the time, but as a kid I didn't think about it really. I was more interested in earlier stuff, but it's certainly something I bear in mind. Thank you for that, Andrew. I'll bear that in mind and give it some thought. It's true. It's something I should consider, as well as being the 40th of the Falklands as well. Favorite alley equipment from Royan, I suppose. Depends what you consider alley. Uh, what you consider alley that I have. I mean, I tend to collect bog standard stuff. Um, so yeah, yeah. Parrot, Porrick, Pat Freeze. Yeah, Pat. Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry, Roy. Yeah, favorite alley equipment. I generally collect bog standard stuff that was standard issue. So I don't really have alley stuff. I suppose the Arctic windproofs, if you can consider them alley, I really, really like the Arctic windproof uniform that was used. Well, it's not specifically used in the Falklands, but from that era, in the gabardine, the print and the cloth and everything. They're really lightweight. They're windproof. You know, great for wearing other layers underneath them, and I just like the look of them as well. So yeah, I guess they're one of my favourite bits, and I think they were considered a somewhat alley by troops at the time because you couldn't get hold of them generally. So if you had them and you were in a regular infantry unit, they were quite good. Borneo kit's quite alley, Jake. That's true. Yeah, yeah. I suppose yeah, that's fair. So Borneo jungle kit with an AR-15 roll pin belt. Perhaps a Bergen if you're SAS, or just the 1944 pattern mix of kit. That's pretty cool. That's pretty alley in my opinion. Old school as well. This sort of early customization of kit, which was going on in Malaya as well. In the 1950s to a degree. So yeah, the jungle kit from that period is quite alley in my opinion. Yeah, DPM barber jacket would be amazing. I'd love to own a DPM barber jacket. I'd be tempted to wear it too often, though. That's the problem. Not conserve it. But they are very, very nice. I really like them. Very, very cool bits of kit. Yeah. Um, do you have any clothing made in India? An area that seems underrated as collectible. I do, yeah. I've covered it on the channel previously. I have a quite large collection of Indian-made kit, web equipment, and I have an Indian-made Dar pattern machete. I have a yeah, sorry, just to get, yes, 42 windproof smock in Afghan is Ali. That's true. I remember my friend Matt Palmer, who's in the lifeguards, seeing a chap wearing MTPs with a 1944 pattern web belt, which was pretty cool as well, just as a belt to wear around the combat smock. But that's pretty cool as well. Really old school stuff turning up in the modern setting. But going back to the Indian made stuff, I have Indian made khaki drill and jungle green clothing as well. Um, and yeah, it's really interesting stuff. I have covered some of it on the channel previously. There are videos up there um, on yeah. Um, Yeah, the good question about the wet weather kit. Oh, sorry, John, UK Festival. So we'll see you there. We'll bring the. Oh, cool. Yeah, no, if Living History UK, brilliant. That's brilliant, John. Fantastic. Down at Chiltern Open Air Museum. That would be fantastic. Look forward to seeing you there. It'd be nice to finally meet you face to face. Brilliant. Really good. Yeah, the wet weather gear in Northern Ireland is a little bit difficult to nail down. So you had the crisp packet waterproofs, which were made certainly in DPM from the, I think, very late 70s, early 80s. I don't actually have a date for that, but I have Falklands era crisp packet waterproofs, and they turn up to a degree. Prior to that, there was a plain green version, I believe. I'm not seeing examples of those, and they were worn. Uh, Photographs are difficult. It's often they're grainy and poorly exposed and so forth of chaps out on more rural patrols and stuff wearing waterproofs. I'm trying to think. I may have a photograph of the early crisp packets in green. Actually, come to that. I use the term crisp packets. They were very crinkly. The early waterproof clothing, the pre-PVC waterproof clothing, was very crinkly and was referred to as crisp packet because it rustled like a crisp packet, which a lot of waterproof clothing does, to be fair. But this stuff was particularly bad. I do have a set of the. I think I made a video again, which really need remaking, and now is the ideal time with the 40th anniversary of the Falklands, looking at Falklands era kit, and I looked at the waterproofs there, the early DPM set, and yeah, I will attempt to make a video looking at those again at some point. Um, yeah, yeah, there was a lot going on during the Cold War. I think I maintain that Malaya and Borneo don't get talked about because they were successful and they're in the shadow of Vietnam, which isn't true. They were just not known about at the time, and therefore they aren't known about now. Much as the Far East theatre in the Second World War gets forgotten about because it was forgotten then, and it wasn't very close to home. Aden is fascinating, and there's lots of small end of empire situations going on, all over the place that the British forces were involved in. Um, so yeah, and then the Suez, of course, as well, which is a major operation, which is a major end of empire operation, if you will. Cyprus, of course, rolling on and on. There's a huge amount going on. Some of it linked directly to the Cold War, some of it more closely linked to obviously the end of empire, and both. Malaya is both. There's a lot of Cold War influence there in fighting communism, but obviously it's managing the decline of empire to a point where you don't have the communists take over. So fascinating from that point of view. And the domino that didn't fall, of course, which it is interesting. It's a very different conflict to Vietnam in terms of scale and so forth. But the scale of the opposition, the communist terrorists in Malaya were not as well organised and not as effective as the Viet Cong, and obviously didn't have half the country to fight from or to be supported from, to be supported from, and then for troops to be sent from later on. So it's a very different situation, but nevertheless interesting. I could wax lyrical, so I will try not to. Hello from the UK to Germany. Uh, yes, yeah, Britain's Secret Wars, lots of it, and lots of interesting stuff. Yeah, and the Defar Rebellion as well, of course, the British contract officers and British mercenaries and British Army officers and so forth on secondment, and RAF officers and so forth on secondment as well, and RAF units out there, and all sorts of stuff going on there. Yeah. Would I do some British UN kit? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Commonwealth UN in general, and Irish as well. I'm hoping to do a Congo kit at some point. I have the majority of the kit. I'm what I'd really like. The Irish wore a UN issue AirTech shirt, which then became sort of issue for various different hot weather deployments for Irish troops going forward in support of the UN. And I have one, but it's short sleeve. There is a video covering it on the channel. Yeah, I need to get one of those with the sleeves intact so I can roll them up because that's more accurate for early on. They were short sleeve later on. I think actually Tom has one because they were used by the Norwegians as well. They were produced, I think, out in produced in Hong Kong. I've seen one with a tailor's label in anyway, and the trousers seem to be basically those which were made by the Indians in World War II, the jungle green trousers. So the kit would not be that hard to replicate. I have a set of the leather leggings that the Irish Defence Forces used at the time, the Irish Army used at the time, and I have a pair of brown boots now, which would go very well. So the good thing with that is you can do it with a number 4 early on, before the FAL was introduced, the FAL, because getting an Irish pattern FAL is difficult. A DAC version is extremely expensive if you can find one, and no one makes a decent airsoft version that matches the pattern, which is a real shame. Um, okay, interesting, Tom. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's a very yeah. No, I'm not sure if it is Indian. Is it Indian made? But yeah, they're a simple shirt with a half front, pockets, and long sleeves originally, and mine's been short sleeve. There's a video covering it on the channel. So yeah, Irish UN as well. Basically, as I say early on, you can use a number 4. Um, I'd like to. Well, I suppose I could always keep an eye out for a Carl Gustaf submachine gun, but again, they're very expensive deactivated. Uh, if someone would make a decent airsoft FAL that's suitable for Irish use, that would be amazing. Just a basic FAL, basically. It would be useful for lots of other things as well. I think there are lots of people who would appreciate that, but companies have yet to catch on to that. So yeah, definitely UN stuff is definitely something I'll be looking into going forward. Canadian stuff as well. Canadians were quite heavily involved in UN deployments. So yeah, did I have, Edwin? Did I have a fashion DPM cover for the Mark IV? Yeah. So I've got exactly that. A lot of chaps use scrap DPM cloth, or in some instances they use the combat hood. You can fit the combat hood over the top of the helmet as well, and I think mine has the combat hood fitted over the top. It's as it came to me, so it's scrimmed as it was. Which is a bit sparse, really. It may have lost some of the scrim over the years, but I don't really want to modify it because it's as it came to me. Um, so yeah, uh, it's something yeah, it's quite common to see chaps using DPM covers and then adding stuff over the top of them. Uh, yeah, um, yeah. I was going to say, yeah, no, that's not something I can take, John. Yeah, that's not kosher, I'm afraid. I don't know. I've not heard of or seen any examples of 1937 pattern webbing made in Hong Kong pre Japanese occupation. No, um, no, I don't. I've not seen any of that stuff. Oh, that's a shame, Matthias. Burning the kit that's not in service. That's daft. Um, yeah, I've not. Yeah, talking about the Rhodesian stuff just briefly. Again, it's something I've considered. I would rock short shorts. You know it. Um, I've had my knees on show before. But yeah, no, I don't. I don't unfortunately have any Rhodesian kit. It's something I've considered, but it's not something I can focus on at the moment. So this is what I love about this fire. The wood's been sat on top of a load of embers for a while, and it's just suddenly burst into life behind me. I suddenly got this warm blast of heat from it as the flames picked up. So that's satisfying. Um, do you have Dirty Dozen watch in your collection? No, Dirty Dozen watch in your collection. No, I don't. Um, I do not, unfortunately. Sorry, I am answering these out of order, so I do apologise, but I'm doing my best. Yeah. Uh, yes. I was going to say, I believe the flash hider on the FAL is used as part of the grenade firing system. So yeah, it's definitely a pressure bearing part. It's intended that you can fire rifle grenades off it. Um, so yeah, I think that's correct anyway. I may be misremembering, but yeah, no. Back to the subject of Rhodesian short shorts. A Rhodesian kit is something I've considered on multiple occasions, and I really like it. It's really cool. And again, if you have a decent foul, problem is you'd want to paint it. Then that would be useful for other things. But yeah, it's something I've considered. Have I ever? No. Would I ever? Absolutely, I would. Yeah, and I would rock them. I would. So yeah. Oh dear. You're saying I was going to say you've got an example of one of those shirts as well, Matthias. I say that I saw one for sale a little while ago, or one sorry no one that had sold, and then I think I saw another one that was for sale, but it was way too much money for me to spend on it. It wasn't in my opinion wasn't worth the money. Oh, excuse me, that's the pork talking, and it's a case of I believe as far as I can make out. I've not seen any anything written on this, but I believe they were UN issued, so the UN provided hot weather uniform. Obviously, the Irish troops went out to the Congo originally wearing what they refer to as bull's wool, which is essentially service dress. So imagine a service dress jacket and trousers, very similar to Great War era, the stand collar, British Great War era. Imagine wearing that in the Congo to start with, and that's what they wore to start with. Now, wool does work quite well in certain instances in hot weather, but wearing wool service dress in the Congo, boy oh boy, and coming from Ireland, from that, from the climate of Ireland to the Congo and wearing wool uniform, it's mad. Set of the Bulls wool uniform would be really cool. Repro set if someone could repro it, that would be really good. Oh, the Braithwaite kit. Yeah, I know. I don't have any of the Braithwaite kit, and it's not something I know a huge amount about, to be honest with you. The Braithwaite webbing, really interesting. Uh, the as I remember it, I can't remember who bought it in between the wars. I think it was a private purchase to something. Maybe Ian has a set of the Braithwaite he was talking about. He picked up in Afghanistan because I think the Afghan army, the Royal Afghan Army, was provided with it into war between the two wars. And I think Ian grabbed a set or two of it while he was out there and said he had some for me. So maybe at some point, but it's not something I have enough experience about to really comment on. So yeah, I'd uh, I'd comment on Braithwaite when I've been able to have a better look at it and sort of compare it. So uh, so yeah, be good to have a look at a set of that at some point and compare it to what came before and what came after. Um, yeah, I was going to say I know South Africa got some as well. Yes, thank you, Michael, for reminding me of that. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Um, yeah, that would be great, Matthias. If you could send those over some photos, that would be very interesting. Um, I mean, it makes sense getting them. I suppose India would produce them cheaply for the UN, and they'd all be wearing the same then, which makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, the lizard pattern's really interesting. Again, of course, it's developed really from the brushstroke stuff from the Second World War, which is it's kind of evolved from the Denison and the airborne clothing, Denison and the other airborne smocks, and then the windproof clothing as well. So the camouflage windproof stuff. So it's that evolution of camouflage pattern there is really interesting, and it is a lovely pattern. And then of course it ends up in Vietnam to a degree as well, influencing some of their stuff. Um, yeah, it's uh, it's all interesting stuff. I do like early camouflage patterns where there's all this experimentation going. I mean, it's supposed today this the same. We can't decide, you know, and mistakes are still being made, like ACU uh, on camouflage patterns. And I know that's not a controversial statement. You know that I doubt there are many US veterans who would defend ACU uniform. ACU uniform. That's redundant, isn't it? But yeah, um, it's interesting to see all the different ways of doing camouflage. You know, you'd think there'd be one best way for each terrain type, and that's what would stick. But obviously, that's not the case. It's fascinating the different number of ways of doing things that there are in terms of camouflage. Um, yeah, yeah, I'd be interested to see Matthias. Definitely, yeah. Yes, I know what. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know where that quote comes from, Michael. Yes, good old Angry Cops. I do watch quite a lot of Angry Cops. Actually, I do really like his videos. Um, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I mean the blue. Yeah, yeah. True. Yeah, the camo pattern. That's true, Tom. You're quite correct. The blue digital camouflage, not the Navy's blue digital camouflage, the US Army's blue digital camouflage, because it does look blue from a distance. Yes, one of my obviously one of my favorite, one of my the daftest videos I like in YouTube is the German machine gunner with the 50 cal with the US guy. Hold it down! It's a machine gun. And the contrast between the German camouflage and then you've got the two American guys wearing the ACU in UCP camouflage, uh, standing out like a sore thumb against the wooded background. But that's not the purpose of the video, of course. But having watched one of Angry Cop's videos on ACU disappearing, it it reminded me of that when I watched it again the other day in a fit of I need to watch something completely brainless that makes me smile. Oh, good lord! Yeah, AKA the AK. Oh, Brandon. No, I don't. No, no. That's two other. You've reminded Brandon though. You've reminded me of two other. Brandon Fischel. I watch his videos, and I watch Chris the Redcoats as well. Um, yeah, yeah. Universal camouflage pattern. Yes, yes. MTP is somewhat better than that, but you know. Oh no, my wife played MTG and still has a huge amount of cards. MTG, for those who are uninitiated in such things, is Magic the Gathering. We both have quite nerdy hobbies beyond my hoarding and other stuff. Um, yeah, there you go. If you direct your questions to Lucy, Tim, um, I'm into D&D and a bit of. Hi, Steve. How you doing? Um, I'm into D&D and 40k, and Lucy's also into 40k and D&D. So yeah, I married a nerd, which was a good idea because I'm also a nerd. So yes, yeah, MTP. I am so sad to see the demise of D. I was so sad to see the demise of DPM. I love DPM. It's such a good print. Yeah, yeah, you did. You dragged me into D&D. It's true. You did. You did. It's very true. I had found 40k myself, but I have been that flame has been reignited. So yes, but DPM is just a really particularly early DPM, the light coloured DPM, the stuff you see on 60 and 68 pattern early on when it was pure cotton. Yeah, absolutely, Steve. We should start a petition. Um, bring back DPM. Yeah, the tropical stuff, the day glow DPM, the really bright stuff you get is just amazing. I mean, you know I'm slightly biased because it was used at a time period I really like. That mid Cold War era, or mid to late Cold War era. But yeah, DPM is a really good print. Yeah, I was going to say MTP is designed for Green Zone Afghan, but I don't think they should call it MTP. It doesn't work in multiple terrains really. So yeah, I was watching a video of jungle training in Belize recently, and they're wearing MTP, and even soaking wet, it doesn't work very well. Uh, yeah, DPM also works really well in the jungle. Um, yeah, I don't think MTP works all that well in real desert as well. But you can understand, it's where we were engaged. We're engaged in Afghan, so naturally they're going to introduce a uniform that works there. Um, yeah, PCS is. I have a bone to pick with PCS mainly because the Navy started using it, and there's nothing wrong with number 8 uniform. Number 5 uniform was latterly. PCS in dark blue looks awful, in my opinion. Oh, Belgian jigsaw camouflage. Yeah, yeah, that's another good one. Yeah, no, it is. I like the Belgian brushstroke stuff, their modified stuff on their airborne clothing as well. Um, yeah, I still love the navy when navies end up wearing a blue camouflage color. Which blue, fair enough, but a blue camouflage color, you know, that's great if you fall in. Um, yeah, I saw RAF PCS didn't last long. Yeah, yeah. Um, It'll be interesting to see what happens now. Now the Afghan adventure is over. There's you know not going to get started on that. It's such a shame, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens if uniform stays down that line, or if it's reevaluated and different patterns are considered, or what. I don't know. It's a huge expense, obviously, so I can't see it happening anytime soon. But who knows? Yeah, the Omani DPM in the sort of orange colours is really, really good. Really, really good. I really like it. Um, I was very kindly gifted a load of stuff by um, oh, for God's sake, I've forgotten his name, which is terrible. I did a video talking to him as well, a chap who's in the Remi, and then went and worked out in Oman, and he sent me a load of Omani stuff, which was very kind of him, along with some of his British kit as well. And the jacket is really nice. The DPM print and everything is really interesting, and it's based on British combat jacket as well. So yeah, yeah, possibly in PCS cut. Who knows? I mean, it's all collectible already, but I don't know. It's a big expense, so I can't see it happening anytime soon. As I say, um, yeah, yeah. I was going to say it's interesting. The CS95 shirt. Uh, there's already a collector thing with those. I believe they made a short run of them, which actually had. I think the CS95 shirt can button all the way to the collar. There is a top button, so you wear it open, but there's a button and a buttonhole, whichever way around. Yeah, button and a buttonhole. And then the later ones, they removed that, or when it was reintroduced because there was an outcry because it was stopped. And the later ones don't have that. So there's already a collector thing of you've got to have the early one with the button all the way to the top, which I believe so. I'm not a collector of MTP, but I just am using that even this early on in its introduction. Excuse me. There is already a collector thing, a specific detail that collectors are looking for. Um, well, Virtus, yeah, I was talking to some chaps from Mercians at an event last year. They were displaying at Hat Green, and they were not fans of Virtus, really. Um, so I've not had a chance to really look at it in detail. Um, Again, modern stuff really isn't my bag. I sort of stop in the early 90s. But yeah. Ah, right, okay. Ah, I see. That makes sense. So they're about the button there. Thanks for that. But yeah, that's going to be a collector thing of people wanting them with the button still there. That makes sense. Um, yeah. Ah, thank you, Joel. There we go. It's terrible. Awesome. Yeah, I got that impression from the chaps I spoke to who were serving with immersions. they didn't have much good to say about it, and they were getting it relative. They'd only recently transitioned over to it, so yeah, they were not happy. Uh, did I miss a question from Pat? Oh, on individual level, how do you think British and Soviet soldiers compare and contrast? Given you have done it with the MVA, also D&D is pure madness. Love it. Yeah, it is. That's true. Um, how do you think British and Soviet soldiers compare and contrast? I mean, it depends which specific unit. I mean, the Soviet army, by and large, was made up of conscripts, and they were even later on. I mean, not very technologically savvy and so forth. There's a famous thing: the Soviets were very resistant to technological advances in equipment and so forth to a degree because the idea you still had a peasant masses, as it were, even late in the Cold War, who would be drafted in and would serve in the military. And they weren't familiar with technology, computers, stuff in the same way that, British soldiers would have been, even on a very basic level, even talking about the 70s and 80s, the sort of consumer products, consumer electric products and so forth, just weren't available in the Soviet Union. So there was that. There was the technological disparity there. Conscripts versus volunteers, very different battle doctrine and so forth as well. Obviously, not only because of the defensive versus offensive ideas, but also because of the equipment that was available and the histories of the two armies and their basic doctrine, their basic beliefs regarding how you fought a battle. I think man for man, the British soldiers probably better, more initiative and so forth on average. But then the Soviets had elite forces and so forth, and you can talk about comparing them to the elite forces of the British, and that's a different kettle of fish entirely. So yeah. I mean, in terms of kit, Soviet kit is very antiquated in that it was designed to look nice for a very long time. Hence, in the 70s, they still look very much like they're wearing a parade uniform in the field, and that's ridiculous, really. But they certainly did that. See you later, John. Sorry, a bit delayed in saying that. So in terms of kit, I can say the Soviet kit was hugely antiquated in terms of design and use in the field compared to British kit because they had this mentality of keeping the soldiers still had to look good for propaganda purposes. Wearing full colour insignia, which in theory would be removed when you went into action, but or went into the field for training. It often wasn't because it was too much of an effort. So you see Soviet troops on exercise still wearing the full colour shoulder boards and collar tabs and everything else. So yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, the Afghanka stuff is good, the Afghan uniform. But yeah, it took a while for that to come around. That's very much sort of late 80s, really, when that becomes more standard across the Soviet forces. When a nation goes into, I mean, to a degree, there's the same with the US in Vietnam in introducing the tropical combat uniform. But when a nation goes into Afghan and they don't have a field uniform really at all, they have what they consider a field uniform, but it isn't a field uniform. So they basically had to introduce a basic battle dress uniform, BDU equivalent, because they didn't have one. And that's that's. Thank you very much, Graham. Cheers. Oh, Graham the leather guy. Hi, Graham. How you doing? Yes. For those who don't know, Graham the leather guy makes reproduction British leather equipment and so forth, and other leather equipment and stuff. He's on Instagram. You should go and have a look if you're looking for any of that stuff. Very kindly made me the shoulder piece for my Carl Gustav ammunition pouch. So hope to commission some bits and pieces of leather from him in the future. So yeah, um, yes, I should be back in just one moment, guys. Literally, just be a moment. And return. Hopefully, not everyone has left in the interim. Right, I am. What's the best way? Milo Jeb asks, "What's the best way to get into reenacting?" I don't think there is a best way. Yeah, you just have to sort of get into it as you can. I mean, I would always advise trying to collect stuff first and then not starting until you've got a good bit of bits and pieces. Yes, I did. Yes, I am hygienic in that regard. Yes, but I did come running back. Yeah, I blame the port and the pint of tea. Well, more than pint of tea I've just drunk. I do not I do not. The Sports Direct do not sponsor this stream. It's just the best way of ingesting a very large amount of tea in one go. Um, yes. Oh God, yeah. So is now the time we should donate to kickstart the Rhodesian kit? You know, but should I start a GoFundMe to buy a Rhodesian kit? Is that what I should do? Right. Okay. Yeah. It's something that may happen. I don't know. There's too many things pulling me in too many different directions, really. Which is, it's the first world problems. Oh God, there's too much stuff to collect. Sort of thing. But yeah. Uh, do I think the GDR? Yeah, yeah. That's a good question, Joel. Yes, I think so. Probably. Their combat uniform was pretty sensible. Uh, the the grey nylon kit is awful in one respect, in that it is made basically per Great War even German kit with a bit of Soviet mixed in. Certainly Second War with the Y straps and everything, the Y strap Y form suspenders for the belt, but it is made of nylon, so there's that going for it. And yeah, the latest stuff, they were going down the right route in trying to develop a proper set of web equipment in the UTV set, the set that was part of UTV, based on British practice, interestingly, of course. But yeah, definitely the I would say that they probably had the best stuff on average on across the board. Looking at all the different bits and pieces, they had the best stuff going in terms of personal kit. Um, yeah, there's always more room for kit. Well, there is an end point somewhere where you go, wait a minute. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. For just £2, yeah, exactly, yes, yeah. We do need a guest bedroom. That's not true. We have people staying over, so yeah. Um, I don't have any experience with French web gear from web equipment from the Cold War. No, not really. I know a lot was US for quite a while. Sam, that's about as much as I know. I haven't looked into their own developments really at all. I'm afraid to say, not something that's within my area of interest really. So sorry, can't really talk about that. It is interesting they kept their MAS 49 in use for so long. It is interesting that very reliable weapon and handy, good size of bolt action rifles. So yeah, uh, but yes, for just £2, I do like that. I may make a spoof little advertising banner with that on it, just for the lulls. Yeah. Oh dear, that might dissuade people though. That's the only thing. The shorts bit might actually dissuade people. So yeah. Oh, I know Dom's really into his roadie kit. Yeah, I'm sure he's into it just for the shorts though, because I'm sure he finds wearing them hilarious. No, I'm only joking. Uh, I'm sure Dom will be very helpful. It's just time and resources, Jake. Unfortunately, yeah, it's yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly it, Tim. Yeah, I had someone wearing like 3/4 length shorts, This man could be wearing short shorts. Yes. No, Lucy's collection isn't increasing, and it's currently stored away, which is a bit sad. But there's not a lot you can play with what you've got, is there? Really, Lucy? They don't. Well, not. I don't know. You'd have to come up with a friend who can, who's willing to play against the right sort of decks and things. To build the right sort of decks and stuff. And oh, nice! You got a lightweight rucksack. Fantastic. Yeah, Commander or Pauper, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, a lightweight rucksack. I recently picked up an Arven pack, so this is sort of where my collection goes a little bit off the range. Uh, there is some evidence of lightweight rucksacks. Well, certainly the SAS in Vietnam used all sorts of bits and pieces, but the Australian SAS regiment, that is. But uh, the lightweight rucksack is something that fascinates me. I'd love to get an example of the US lightweight rucksack. I recently picked up an Arven pack, which is nice to have because again, you do occasionally see Aussies using them, and Kiwis as well. And some evidence of well, obviously some US forces use them as well, so it's a useful thing to have. So that was nice to get. It has a repro lightweight rucksack frame because the frame was missing, so it's not ideal, it's not perfect, but it's fine for my purposes. So yeah. Oh, shorts with turnips. Yes, the Bombay bloomers, so called. Yeah, they are fantastic. Yeah. Uh, oh, Warlord Games Bolt Action. I've had this recommended to me on multiple occasions. I need to look into it really, but I don't think so. Yeah, I was going to say, Jake, just keep all that stuff under your hat. This is a public stream, so we don't know who's watching. You just don't know who's watching. You've got to be careful. Um, but yeah. I've had Warlord games, so I've had Bolt Action mentioned to me on several occasions by different people who've seen uh, the role playing game stuff and all the other stuff, all the other nerdy stuff of that nature, and they've recommended it to me. So I need to go and have a look at it really at some point. I will have to say goodnight soon, guys, because it's 10 o'clock. It's past 10 o'clock, so it's past my bedtime. But no, I've got some bits and pieces I need to do before bed, so I will have to drop off relatively shortly. So if you've got any questions, get them in now. Yeah. Oh well, that's great. I'm really glad, Delaney boys. I'm glad it was helpful. Thank you. I will do my best to keep up the good work. Okay, and another reason for obviously another reason for closing down soon is the chat is just becoming a pit of degeneracy. So yeah, I will rage quit this stream soon. See you, Steve. Rest well. Yeah, that's true. The Soviet winter kit is often very good. They're lined the padded winter uniforms and so forth. Same's true of the East German kit. The MVA kit is good as well. So yeah, yes, it's it's good stuff. Some of the cold weather kit, which is why it's very sought after. That's some of the most sought after MVA surplus stuff, or well, not surplus anymore. It's very much collectible now, of course, because it's not been in production for years and years and years. The country's not existed for years and years and years. But the cold weather kit is actually being reproduced because it's so good. People. Yes, my my collection, um, which is not in any way compulsive at all. I don't have to buy things. I can stop anytime I like. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, okay, definitely great stuff. I'd like to get some NVA cold weather kit together. Um, I bad basic stuff at the moment. That's one thing I'm thinking of making a video on soon is not a comparison, but just I have quite a nice set of Kampfgruppe stuff. Kampfgruppe der Arbeiterklasse, fighting groups of the working class, which is wonderfully sort of Eastern Bloc, wonderfully red. I'm going to hopefully make a video on those at some point. Yeah, I've ordered from What Price Flora in the past. Yeah, they're generally pretty good. Um, so the in terms of service, I mean, obviously some of their kit is not entirely up to scratch, but they're good in terms of ordering and stuff. Um, it depends in terms of webbing. It depends what I want to do. I mean, obviously, I'd like to put together a set of unissued 1937 pattern. Not particularly fussed on dates. I just like a nice clean set of it. But I don't mind used stuff with names and numbers at all. In fact, that's if you want rare bits, that's sometimes the only way you'll get them. But with names and numbers, if you can trace the guy, that's good. If you can trace the guy who used the stuff, that's always good. So that has its own charm, if you will, of finding stuff that's actually been issued rather than being mint. So yeah, yeah. Oh right, you tried to order from them. I don't know. You'd have to email them and ask Delaney boys. They may be able to help you out with that. The customer service guys, yeah. But yeah, definitely Matthias. It's last words. Yeah, I don't have to buy anything this month, and then you'll see something, and it'll be like, oh, wait a minute, no, I really need that. And need is the operative word, of course. It's need. It's not a. This is it. I've gone off centre at some point. How's that happened? Oh God, that's terrible. How long's that been like that? Can I fix this? Which way is it? Which way is it tilted? There's such a lag. The camera view moving over. The stream's nearly over, and suddenly I'm bothered that we're oh no, too far the other way. What are you doing? I'm watching it back several seconds later. Anyway, oh dear, oh dear. I've very much enjoyed this. I say it's been nice chatting to you all this evening. I have to say, and chatting with you. But Lucy is the worst enabler. She's absolutely fine with my collecting, which is problematic because Lucy gets told off for being an enabler by other people, other wives of people in hobbies I'm involved with, sometimes for being too accepting. Make of that what you will. No, that's true, Jake. That's true. I'll take this till 10 past, and then I will end the stream. So it's been really good fun. Well, for me anyway. I don't know if you guys enjoyed it or not, but I'll have to look what the like to dislike ratio is at the end. Um, and I'm sorry about the horrible audio. Yeah, that's true. You do get told off for liking the stuff as well. That's very true. Um, Jake, just view it as the wedding as collecting a person. You're just adding a person to the collection. Um, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm sticking to it. See, Lucy, you're part of the collection. You see, it encompasses you, bring you into the collection. Um, that's fantastic. I love that. He put some medals off him. Brilliant. Yes. Hi, John. I'm sorry. I'm just about to finish off. I'm afraid in the next couple of minutes. So yes, I love you, Lucy. I could be really saccharine sweet now. You're the prized part of the collection. There we are. Oh, sudden explosion of messages. Well, you need to reenact cavalry then, John. There you are. There's the answer. Um, I was saying before, Delaney boys, I've collected for about 12, 13 years now. Well, thank you all for the compliments, and thank you very much for subscribing, and thank you for joining in this evening. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, Monty's Men happens all the time, like every year. Weddings only happen once, so I still need to get to Monty's Men at some point. Oh, I like horses, John. I would totally sit on a horse in uniform. Oh well, thank you, Michael. And thank you, Tim. With that, it is now 22:10, so I'm going to end the stream there. Thank you all very much for joining in, and there's been some very amusing comments and some informative and interesting comments and some good questions. So it's been good overall. Thank you all very much indeed, and shall see you again soon, all being well. Bye for now. See ya.